Welcome along to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're tackling a specific source, really getting under the skin of a recent match.
That's right. We're zooming in on the Sharks versus Bulls URC playoff game.
And specifically, we're looking at it through the player ratings from Planet Rugby,
Yeah, exactly. So the mission, if you like, is to unpack this analysis, just these player ratings, and see what insights it gives us about the Sharks' performance on that day.
pulling out those key takeaways.
Yeah.
What stood out to this source, the good, the bad, based purely on their ratings and comments.
Spot on. It's like getting a focused view of how one specific analysis saw the game, player by player.
And look, if you enjoy this kind of really detailed look, digging into rugby source material like this,
Then you should definitely subscribe to Rugby Obsession.
yeah, hit that subscribe button now so you get these deep dives straight into your feed. Don't miss out.
Okay, so context first. Sharks away to the Bulls, URC playoffs. Huge game.
Absolutely. Winner moves on, loser goes home. High stakes.
And the final score, well, the Planet Rugby report we're digging into, confirms it was a 25-13 loss for the Sharks. Loftus-Versfeld, tough place to go.
Yeah, never easy.
And the overall feeling from this source, pretty blunt actually. They
Yeah.
said the Sharks, and they specifically mentioned it's a Springbok-littered squad. Well, they failed to hit second gear.
Oof. Failed to hit second gear. That's
Yeah.
quite a statement for a team with that kind of talent.
It really is. Suggests a big underperformance, according to them.
Right. Well, let's see why they reached that conclusion. We should probably start with the backline ratings. That's often where the headlines are.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's kick off with the backs. Fullback, Afale Fassi, he got a 6 from Planet Rugby.
Okay. A 6? What did they say about him?
Well, they noted he was tested a lot under the high ball. You know how it is.
Relentless pressure.
Exactly. And their view was he stood up to the pressure.
That's good to hear.
Mm.
Any standout moments mentioned?
Yeah, they highlighted one big kick from his own 22, found touch, gained an attacking line out. So, solid under the high stuff and a positive contribution with the boot.
Okay. Moving up to the wing then. Ethan Hooker.
Hooker also got a 6. The source mentioned he saw a fair bit of the ball, regular touches.
And he got a try, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Rewarded in the second half, found some space out wide. They even suggested he might have been a bit unlucky.
Oh,
Yeah, possibly unlucky to have another try rolled out. So it sounds like he was involved and looking dangerous.
right. So 2 6s. Fairly steady start for the backs analysis.
Uh-huh. But then we get to outside center, Lucanio Am. He was rated a 2.
Sorry, did you say a 2?
A 2, yeah. Incredibly low.
Wow. For Am.
Yeah.
That's kind of shocking. What was their reasoning?
Well, they didn't mince words. They talked about a forgettable first half, listed specific things too.
Like what?
A poor tackle attempt on Seb de Klerk, an overcooked cross kick, and a forward pass that apparently spoiled a great attack.
Ouch. Those aren't small errors, especially for a player of his caliber.
Not at all. And it didn't get much better, according to them. The report says his second half wasn't much better, making mistakes you just wouldn't expect.
From a double World Cup winner, as they pointed.
Exactly. That phrase really lands the point how surprising this off day felt.
And their final verdict.
Just devastating, really. An absolute mare overall.
A mare. Okay. You don't often see language that strong for such a respected player. Tells you how bad they thought his game was.
It really does. A major talking point from this source, for sure. Inside him, at 12, Andre Esterhazen got a 5.
Okay, 5. What was the take there? His usual hard running.
Pretty much. The analysis said his game plan was obvious, run those hard lines, but
But it didn't quite work.
yeah, seems like it. They said he struggled to turn his hard-running lines into points, suggesting the Bulls' defense was basically ready for him.
They nullified his impact.
Right. Seems so. But then on the other wing, Makazole Mapimpi, he gets a 7.
Ah, a positive score.
Yeah, and Planet Rugby framed it really positively. Called it a reminder to all that the great Springbok winger still has what it takes.
Nice. So what did they like about his game?
Said he was always looking for work, constantly seeking the ball, and they credit him with the biggest impact of the second half.
Scoring that first try for the Sharks. I remember that. It felt important.
It did. They highlighted his great pace to get there
Mhm.
and mentioned it was his mix of great speed and strength that set the 34-year-old apart.
So still got it, according to this analysis. A real high point in that back line then.
Definitely stands out in the review, yeah.
Okay, let's just pause there for a moment. We've gone through the backline ratings from Planet Rugby, seen everything from a 7 from Mapimpi down to that 2 for Am.
Quite the range.
Yeah, exactly. So Just thinking about that section, what really jumps out at you listening now? What strikes you most from those specific ratings and comments?
For me, I think it's just the sheer contrast within one unit. You know, Matimpi's brilliance, Fassi and Hooker holding up okay, and then that incredibly low score and harsh critique for a player like Am. It really makes you think, how can a backline with that much obvious talent have such, well, wildly different fortunes in one game, according to this report?
It underlines the pressure of knockout rugby, I suppose.
Yeah.
Fine margins. And look, if you're finding this kind of deep dive into the source material helpful,
Really getting into the weeds of the analysis.
yeah, then make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession. It means you won't miss future breakdowns like this. Just hit that subscribe button while it's fresh in your mind.
Good call. Okay, shall we move on to the guys steering the ship, the halfbacks?
Yeah, let's do it. Fly half Jordan Hendricks. What rating did he get?
He got a 4. Planet Rugby said he sometimes looked sharp with the ball in hand, but consistency was the issue.
Lacked consistency. Any specific examples?
Yeah, they pinpointed one crucial moment late in the game. Apparently threw the ball forward when they were desperate for a score, just when a try looked certain.
Well, that's a killer error to highlight.
Yeah, really costly, according to the source. And his brother, Jaden, at scrum half, also got a 4.
Another 4. What was the feedback there?
Well, this one was quite pointed. They mentioned his antics during the kicking competition before the game were embarrassing.
Okay, but the on-field stuff.
Right, they said the real embarrassment was his botched clearance kick from near his own line.
The one that led directly to a Bulls try.
That's the one. A huge moment. They also commented on shaky communication between the brothers.
Saying neither really stamped their authority on the game.
Exactly. A tough assessment for that crucial 9-10 partnership from this source.
Right, okay. Let's move into the pack then, starting with the back row. Number 8, Siaya Kolisi.
Kolisi got a 5. The report acknowledges he did a lot of the dirty work buried in the ruck, but did impress with ball in hand when he had the chance.
Did they mention that break he made?
They did, yeah. Specifically called out a memorable, impressive break through the center in the second half. A flash of brilliance.
But there's usually a but.
Well, yeah. They balanced it by also noting a knock-on he made near the Bulls line in the first half, another missed opportunity highlighted.
Fair enough. Okay, open side flanker. Vincent Chatuka.
Now he impressed them. Got a 7.
A 7. That's strong. Did they give details?
Yep, specific stats. Said he beat 6 defenders with just 6 carries, making 45 meters total.
Wow, that's very effective carrying.
Definitely a strong showing highlighted there. Then James Venter on the blind side, he got a 5.
5. What was the verdict on Venter?
They credited him with topping the Sharks' tackle count, said he provided vital defense, which actually kept the visitors in the game after a poor first half.
So a key defensive contribution. They also mentioned he's off to Gloucester, right?
Yeah, they slipped that detail in too.
Okay, into the second row. The locks. Emil Van Heerden.
Van Heerden got a 5, described as the line-out general.
So the line-out functioned well.
Yeah, provided a solid base there, according to the report. Also a solid carrying option, but they did add his impacts didn't make much of a dent in the Bulls' defense.
Okay. And his partner, Corny Roll.
Rawl also got a 5. His performance was framed more defensively, called him a brick wall.
Makes sense, he's a big unit.
Yeah, 6'8". They said his size helped against the Bulls' attack, but also noted he only played the first 40 minutes.
Taken off at halftime.
Right.
Now for the front row. This could be interesting given the overall result. Tight head, Vincent Coe.
Coe got a 4, summarized as okay, but not great.
And the scrum. That's key for a tight head.
That seems to be the main point. The source says he was put in reverse at scrum time.
Ouch, that's not what you want to hear.
No. They mentioned he tackled and carried when needed, but the overall feeling was he'd wish he had made more of an impact in his 50 minutes.
So scrum struggles definitely noted there. What about the hooker, Bongi Mbonambi?
Mbonambi received a 5. Here there was a clear positive and negative highlighted.
Okay, the positive first.
The line out. Planet Rugby said it was expertly run, credited his experience making the set piece a form of strength when other areas were shaky.
Good leadership there. And the negative.
A penalty. He was found guilty of illegally contesting a ruck, and that error led directly to the Bulls extending their lead to 12 points.
So a critical mistake balancing out the line-out work.
Seems to be the assessment. Finally, loose head prop, Ox Ninshe.
What was his rating?
Ox got a 4. Described as strong and regularly involved, tackling hard.
Let's get scrum again.
Yep. The source states his opposite number, Wilco Liu, emphatically got the better of him in the scrums.
Emphatically. Okay.
They did note he worked well with Mbonambi, setting up Mapimpi's try, showing some value around the park.
But like Cook, the scrum performance was seen as a real negative by this source.
Exactly. So across the forwards, it's kind of a mixed bag again, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got individuals like Chituka standing out, others doing solid work like Venter defensively, Khaleesi having moments.
But then major issues highlighted, particularly around the scrum performance and some key penalties, according to this analysis.
One last piece they covered was the bench, right? The replacement.
Yeah, and interestingly, they gave the bench as a collective a rating of 7.
A 7. That's quite high, especially compared to some starters.
It is. And the report explicitly connects this to the team's performance. Says the tempo certainly picked up in the second half for the Sharks.
And they put that down to the bench.
Largely, yeah. Not least because of the bench's impact, is the phrase they used.
And they brought out almost a whole new pack, didn't they?
They did, yeah, by minute 54. The source suggests this gave the Sharks the freshness needed to stage an almost comeback.
So the bench impact was seen as a definite positive by Planet Rugby.
Clearly. A real boost in the second half.
Okay, so if we try and pull all these threads together now, this deep dive into just the Planet Rugby ratings, what picture does it paint overall of the Sharks' performance in that Bulls game?
Well, according to this source, it's really a picture of inconsistency, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got those moments of individual quality, Mapimpi's try, Chituka's carrying, Khaleesi's break, the line-out working well under Mbonambi, the bench making an impact.
But set against some really significant individual errors highlighted for players like Am and the Hendricks brothers.
Exactly. And clear systemic problems noted in areas like the scrum.
So that initial assessment we mentioned, the failed to hit second gear line.
It feels kind of backed up by the details, doesn't it? A talented group, but the collective performance just wasn't there on the day, despite some individual bright spots, according to this report.
And this type of detailed player rating analysis, even though it is just one perspective.
It's still really useful, I think. It helps you understand the game beyond just the scoreline.
Yeah, it flags up who this source thought stepped up and where they saw the specific problems cropping up.
Lets you appreciate those little battles within the bigger picture.
Absolutely. So thinking about everything, this source highlighted those individual mares, the moments of brilliance, all within a team that failed to hit second gear in a massive playoff match. Here's something for you, our listener, to mull over. Based purely on this Planet Rugby analysis we've unpacked, what do you think is the single biggest factor that stops a squad packed with talented players from really clicking and performing as a unit when the pressure is truly on in a game like that?
That's a good question to ponder. Food for thought.
Definitely. Well, we hope you found this deep dive valuable, getting into the nitty-gritty of those player ratings from Planet Rugby.
Yeah, hopefully it gave you a slightly different, deeper angle on that Sharks performance.
That's certainly what we try to do here on Rugby Obsession.
Yeah.
Take these sources and really dig in.
And if you want more of this, exploring the rugby world through specific analysis and reports,
Then please do make sure you're subscribed to Rugby Obsession.
it's honestly the easiest way to catch every deep dive we do.
Thank you specifically for tuning into this Rugby Obsession deep dive today.
We really appreciate you listening, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode of Rugby Obsession.